So we prepare in there, and here we go. All right, ready? Well, welcome back to Principles Podcast with Cory and Logan. Today I've got a great friend of mine. It's going to be really, really good. My buddy Tanny Crawford. I've known Tanny for a while. We got to know each other in the therapy world, but you're going to share a little bit about that, I'm sure. But Tanny I consider Tanny a good friend, but also somebody that's probably one of my first mentors, somebody I really looked up to. And really watching him is where I learned a lot about leadership, honestly. So welcome to the podcast, Tanny. It's good to have you, buddy.
Thank you, Cory. Love to share, man. Love to share. This is awesome.
Yeah, I know you got a ton of wisdom. It's going to be great. So I'm looking forward to jumping in with you. But, we call our podcast Principles. And I was just kind of curious, what are some of your core values? What are some of the principles you try to live out?
Honestly, core values, character, integrity, being trustworthy are at the core. Those are things that can, if I'm not being trustworthy or if my integrity is questioned, boy, those things hit hard. So those three: character, integrity, and trustworthiness. Number 1, 2, and 3 right there.
Yeah, those are good quality traits you got to have, the character and the integrity there. So let me ask you, Tanny, tell us a little bit about you. I know we've had you on the podcast before, but there may be some people that haven't listened and they may not know who you are. So give us a little bit of background on you.
Oh, yeah. So I am in Franklin, Tennessee, just south of Nashville. I'm doing real estate now. Of course, you might have heard about the real estate market. It's kind of crazy. But it ebbs and flows. But I'm doing real estate now and loving it. It's a true add value, create win-win field that, character, integrity, and honesty go a long way. I think in general, not going to pick me. Mom and dad was an attorney, so I talk about them. But, attorneys and real estate agents and a handful of other professions, sometimes it's that one bad apple that ruins the bunch, and that just keeps going. So character, integrity, honesty is something that really I think, is going to be the long game in this field.
Yeah, it definitely is. And, we can say character and integrity are things that we want to do, but those are things that kind of come out of us and that is found out over time. And I've known you for many years, and I know those are some of the character traits that I think definitely define you. So you're in the real estate game now. You've moved to Nashville, man. You've had a lot of pivots in your life, and we're going to talk about that some. We were both in the therapy world. We both kind of made a pivot there. And you talked about your dad. I hear you talk about your dad a whole lot. Somebody you've got a lot of respect for, honestly, I'm sure. But tell us your journey. Kind of take us to how you got to where you are now.
Man, honestly, I've just really come to the realization of how many pivots I have had to make over life. Sometimes you don't think about them because you just kind of do it in the moment. But gosh, I can list 10 big pivots. But the latest big pivot was, you're right. So I was in the healthcare world, a physical therapist by license, managed a number of outpatient clinics through about 2015, sold out to a national group, had a non-compete, worked that for a little while. And then the supposed to be ongoing. That was my first real big forced pivot. Sometimes I like analogies here. And so if you're going down the interstate and there's an exit ramp, there's two choices. Either you keep going or you take that exit. Okay. There's a third choice. Sometimes your buddy in the car grabs your wheel and pulls you off on that exit ramp. It's kind of a forced exit, right? So that was something that required a pivot back in 2018. But got back into the healthcare world and I was in Mississippi. So originally from Jackson, Mississippi. And back in late 2019 was called by a healthcare company in Franklin, Tennessee. They had bought a company in Mississippi out of bankruptcy and hired me kind of as a turnaround artist, turn it around and flip it. Right. Well, in 2019, we didn't see COVID coming. They wanted me to move here in April. COVID really started going. We sold our house in Mississippi, moved up here. COVID hit really hard, and they decided to sell the company that they hired me to turn around like early, right? So within a couple of weeks of being here, they sold out and it was gone. Thanks, Tanny. Good luck, right? So that was another forced pivot. And when, you don't think about, oh, this is a pivot right in the middle of that thing, right? You're like, oh man, here we go again. I just moved to Franklin. It's those negative thoughts that start rolling. And if you don't watch it, you can kind of dive and stay in that hole for a while, or you can pivot. I mean, hindsight's 2020. We call it a pivot now. You don't really know you're doing it in the moment. So I spent all summer looking for physical therapy work, right? Or healthcare work. I think I've told you like 4 or 5 times. I was over 300, maybe 305, 310 on applications, the number of applications, and Indeed, Monster, LinkedIn jobs, just boom, 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 boom. Nothing was coming up, just crickets. I mean, people weren't even responding back at that time at all. So give a lot of credit to my brothers there in Mississippi. They, both of them were like, why don't you try real estate? And I was, I'm not afraid of risk. And so I was like, all right, I've been doing healthcare for 23 years. Why not? Let's change, So talk about my wife a good bit, but she's kind of a little bit risk averse, and she likes the tried and true, which I understand. But long story short, I pivoted into real estate back just in November of this past year. I did find a little bit of a healthcare job for a couple of months to tide a little income over, but I really went full time in real estate in January of this year. And it's been phenomenal. So looking back at that journey, man, it was tough because you and I stayed in contact almost every day. And, it's tough in those trenches sometimes mentally, but you just keep persevering and it's coming out. It's coming out really well on this side of it.
As you were thinking about that, and I think back to that time when you're going through that season, you mentioned something that we stayed in contact. You had a lot of great people around you too. And I think that is so key whenever you're going through a time. You mentioned there are 3 choices. I like that you can take the exit, you can keep going, or hey, your buddy pulls you off and you're forced into that pivot. And sometimes that can be emotional because it's unexpected, or sometimes you don't feel like it's fair, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't want to take that exit or whatever. And you can choose to stay in that kind of mindset and that emotional mindset. But I saw you choose to stay positive. And I think it's because you had a lot of good influencers around you too. I mean, not just myself, but you had good people speaking into you that were encouraging you. And I just think that is so key. And I know you got other things you'd like to talk about, but I was just kind of curious, how important for you is it to have people like that in your life?
Oh, 100%. And I use the term buddy. Your buddy pulls the wheel. It may not be your buddy. It just may be a ghost rider that yanks that wheel and you're off the interstate, right? And you get to the top of that exit ramp. You got to, all right, where do I go from here? Do I get back on that thing or do I go try a new adventure? But we're part of a mastermind group, the Legacy Builders Mastermind Group, and it has just been phenomenal. It's honestly a positive group of advisors that have helped me through this transition. My wife has helped me through the transition, kind of bringing me back to some stability and a little bit of back to some of the reality, and just keep digging, keep chopping wood. Don't give up, keep chopping wood. So she's, Jim Rohn says they're the average of the top 5 people you spend the most time, the 5 people you spend the most amount of time with, right? You're the average. And so I have found myself in circles where I was the higher average before. And so, when you get into those other groups, the mastermind groups, groups of advisors, those people are really good, especially the positive ones, are really good at bleeding that positivity over to you, because everybody's ebbing and flowing, right? Some people are up while other people are down. And so it's easier because everybody's not all down at the same time. Everybody's not all up at the same time. So yeah, that's huge. That's been a huge anchor for me, I guess, as I've gone through this situation.
Yeah. I love what you said there, Jim Rohn's quote, you're the average of the 5 people you hang around with. I've also heard him, I think, say your bank account's going to be the average of the 5 people you hang around with. And
That's
um,
true. Oh yeah.
we've got a mutual friend. He said something I love. And I love that too. You're the average of the 5 people you hang around with. And, we talk about if you're the smartest, strongest, fastest person in the room, you need to find a new room and those kind of things. But he made a statement I thought was really powerful. He said, I want to be the guy that increases the average of my friends. And I was like, wow, that is really good. Like he want, like what he was saying is I want to grow to the level that I'm pulling other people up, that's the expectation. I want to increase the average of my friends. I was like, man, that is so good. That is so good.
Exactly. And you have to develop yourself, and you have to develop your average. And of course, God's blessings on your life are probably a largest part of that. But you have, to be able to add value, you have to be valuable, right? So we have to go through these pivots and these situations like this. I wish you didn't. I wish you just, born with a silver spoon and just roll through. That's not reality. That's just not how it works. So we have to go through these situations. Anyway, you got to be valuable to add value to others.
That's right.
Yeah.
One other thought on, you was talking about our mastermind group, and I heard this quote the other day is talking about accountability. And that's one of the reasons you get into something like that and have friends too. And he said, accountability is an account for your ability, not for your inability. So the great thing about having a mastermind group like that is they see talent and potential within you, and then they have the expectation that you're going to rise up. So you have to give an account for your ability. I was like, man, that's good too, right there. Tanny, you talked a lot about pivot. What, as you look back over your life, what do you think was one of the first pivots you've had to make?
Man, all right. So there's this story that I was probably 12 or 13. I'm not. I mean, I guess this is the first pivot. It's the first like take action pivot. I was looking for. So this is. I'm almost 45. So this is back in the Nintendo day, right? The regular Nintendo Entertainment System. You had Super Mario Brothers, and one of the next games to come out was Legend of Zelda. People may not remember that one, other than Duck Hunt, but I wanted a new Nintendo game. And Dad was like, I'm not just going to give you the money for it. My brothers they weren't going to give me the money for it. So honestly, my brain switched to like, okay, I'm not going to steal. So how do I get the money? And I thought, I'm going to go try to cut grass, right? So I'm going to go out in somebody's neighborhood. We live right behind a neighborhood in South Jackson, probably 40, 50 houses in the neighborhood. I went knocking on doors, and before lunch that day, I think I had 2 yards to cut. And that was when yards were $15, maybe $20. You cut, weed eat, blow it off, good to go for $20. The game was probably 35. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna cut 2 yards and go buy my game. And that's what happened. So that was a pivot. And there's been a number of scenarios. My mom passed at an early age. Had some difficulties in high school, had some difficulties in college, had some failures, some course failures, and some pivots. Some of them are funny, and we could go way off into some of these stories. But I think that cut grass scenario was one of my first pivots, and sure a lot of people listening either cut grass as a kid or knew somebody that did. And so that was my first. I'd cut my own yard at our house. I'm like, hey, I cut somebody else's. So that was just the mental shift. I just took action, and literally sitting in my room, I thought, okay, I need to go get the lawnmower and go to the neighborhood and knock on doors. That's all I got to do. And surely out of 40, somebody let me cut their yard. That's just what I thought. If not, there's another neighborhood a couple blocks down. I'll go hit that one up. So anyway, that was my first pivot probably.
Tanny said, law of averages. Somebody gonna let me cut that yard. I like it.
Yeah.
Somebody gonna let me. Come on.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm just kind of listening to it, and you're talking about you wanted something, and your dad wouldn't do it for you, and most people would stop right there, but you said you put a how in front of the can I. How can I And it's, I could go cut some yards, and you did it, and you went out and got the thing that you really wanted. And at that time, that was something that you truly wanted.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that has served you all over your life as well.
Yeah. You know, what's funny is, but I think thinking back now, I think I bagged up about 8 or 10 big, like black lawn leaf bags of pine straw, right? My initial thought was I need to go take some bags of pine straw and sell it on the street, right? And I'm pretty sure I did that for a couple hours that day. So I need to tighten that story up. But honestly, thinking about it, I really sat. I think that was a failure. I don't think anybody bought my $5 bags of pine straw. This is like 1988, right? And so then I thought, I'm gonna go cut grass. I know somebody needs their grass cut. So that's pretty funny. Yeah, that was first failure, first pivot.
There you go. Hey, it's all in one right there. But you tested and retested.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's funny.
I'll tell you this. In between high school and college, I was working at Lowe's, and I was working there in the outside lawn and garden part, and they brought in this big trailer, and is these bales of pine straw. I was like, what in the world was that for? They said, we're going to sell them. I said, you sell pine straw? My grandmother's yard was full of this stuff.
Yeah,
I had no idea you could sell it at that point. I was a young guy, but that's hilarious. Good stuff. Well, hey, Tanny, I want to ask you about pivot. So you made the mention that I love your analogy about your buddy pulling you and having those forced pivots. Do you think there's a way you can kind of forecast those forced pivots to maybe stay away from them, or kind of your thoughts on that? Or you think that's just sometimes part of life that you're going to have those forced pivots, and how you deal with it is the main thing?
So here's where I'm gonna go with that. Everybody's got a batting average. You get up to the plate 10 times, you hit the ball get on base 3 times, you get a 300 batting average, right? So it's probably, for the younger audience on the call, it'll take a little bit of time to kind of figure your batting average. You can't, at 2 at bats, you're not going to really know what a good true average is, right? So I think as you track those pivots and those failures and those accomplishments in life, and honestly try to create a little formula out of it, it'll help you figure out what's coming in the future. They're not avoidable. My son plays travel baseball, and he's got one of the higher at batting averages on the team. Now we didn't have a game changer when I was growing up playing baseball, but it keeps averages and on base percentages and errors and all that stuff. Well, I'm not kidding. He was in a slump. He had 7 or 8 strikeouts in a row. This is over like 3 or 4 total games. He's just so down, and he still had this high average. And I drew out a little sheet of paper. I don't have it here. I'm going to do this on camera. I drew out a little sheet of paper, and I drew like the binary code. So our buddies in the IT world understand what this is, but I drew out some 1s and 0s. Is that like too much? Right? Some 1s and 0s, right? And I said, buddy, you just happen to be in the stage where there's like 6 zeros in a row. Well, guess what? There's some 1s coming after that. It's just, it's averages. It's just, you're going to hit the ball coming up. And so if you've got 3 or 4 failures back to back, those are your strikeouts. You've got some hits coming. And so that's your kind of, and it's guaranteed, because there's law of gravity, law of averages. It's guaranteed that you've got some successes coming if you just keep swinging. If you walk away from the plate and go get back in the car, it ain't gonna happen. But if you keep swinging, I may have gone way off tangent here, but do you understand what I'm saying? If you keep swinging, you keep at the plate, and you keep going down your path where you've got your goals, laid out. You're supposed to have your cheat sheet and your goals kind of laid out where you're going, and you keep in that direction, then those pivots are going to happen, and they're okay. It's fine. You're going to get upset with some strikeouts and get upset with some failures and some, getting kicked out of schools and all that good stuff. But anyway, that's my take. I love the 1s and O's and the law of averages, because you know that some wins are coming. Yeah, it's the sun. It's not going to rain all the time. It's cloudy here in Nashville today. It's kind of drizzly, but I don't know. Tuesday, Wednesday, we're going to have some sunshine. It's just coming. It's just coming.
Only way you're not going to have it is if you go back to the dugout. Tanny said, "I like it." The law of averages. You made you're talking to the story about your son. I would like to talk to you about fatherhood if you're cool with that.
Oh yeah, sure.
And not just being a kind of fatherhood. I think about being a mentor and a guide as well. So just curious. I wanted to hear your take on fatherhood and those kind of things.
Well, I mean, not all of us had great examples. I had a really good dad, good father, good stability, pretty strict, which was good. And until, later in life, then he kind of let us run and burn our hands a couple times, which I kind of take after some of that. I mean, in the Bible, train a child in the way they should go. So their formative years, the two, I guess they're always, you can always form them, but 2 to 12, 2 to 15, when you've got their full attention, is your time frame to, keep them in church, practice what you preach. But fatherhood is to me, it's a heavy on love, heavy on touch, hugs and pats on the head and, good jobs. But it's also when you're not up there giving really good effort, it's also, I think, on me to tell you, the world's not going to do it for you. I've got a daughter who's really working real hard at soccer, and sometimes you can just tell on the field that she's not giving 100%. Now you can hone talent a little bit, and you can definitely hone discipline and self-discipline to practice and doing things when coach isn't looking and on your days off. But on the field, intensity on the field, given 100% is something that's, it's so hard for me to watch you not do it, because that's something that really kind of takes you over the hump into success, is given 100% in whatever you're doing. So, but yeah, man, fatherhood, we purposely, gosh, you know how it is. You got baseball some nights till 8:00, soccer till 8:15, dropping somebody off at volleyball at 7:00 to pick them up at 8, but the other one's got to be at soccer at 8:05 and 20 minutes apart. So, it's like, what is it? I mean, it's just, you're all over the place, right? So we do our best, especially when downtime's like, we got about a 3-week period. We spend time around the table. It's a nighttime. Everybody get around the table, turn your phones off. And to me, that's what the fatherhood is. It's running until 9:30 at some nights. And then some nights it's 7:00, 6:00. You just come on around the table. I don't want to. All right, come on around the table, because they will. I appreciated it. We sat around the table when I was growing up a good bit. And I know my kids will too. So that's Tanny's take on fatherhood.
I like it. That's good, Tanny. Hey, look, Tanny, I know you're working on writing a book, and I would love to hear any other pivots you'd like to share with us.
Man, listen, I've got some funny stories. Let me tell you one real quick, and I'll put this story in there. I tell it all the time, and I love my wife so much. She's so amazing, but she rolls her eyes all the time. But look, I was at Mississippi College. Okay, I was maybe a sophomore, going to medical school. Like, all I knew was med school, right? I'm going to medical school. My mom passed away in summer of 10th grade, summer of 92, and just got me interested in science. And literally 11th, 12th grade, like, my science grades were through the roof. So I just naturally thought medical school, that's where I'm going. Okay. I had an older brother that went through med school. And so it's like, I can do it too. And so I'm in genetics. It's a genetics class, right? And I'm looking around and I'm like, oh, these people, they don't know. These people don't know how to study. And so we get in there and we run through that first, 4 weeks, come up to our first test. Okay. Took my test. I was probably at the worst, made a 92, 93 on that thing, right? Go to class. They're getting ready to pass out the grades. And the professor writes top score, 103, down to a 41. And he just kind of put top score 103, bottom score, 41. And I remember honestly sitting at my desk, I was on the right side of the room, about midway's back. And I thought to myself, that dude does not need to be in this class. So sitting there, you know where this is going.
Oh,
sitting there, I get my paper back. It's a 41. And I honestly thought I made like a 95. And I thought I went to the teacher, I went to the professor. He kind of reminded me of the, I don't know his name, the dry eyes for clear eyes guy, right?
Yeah.
Went up to him and I said, Mr. Smith, whatever. I said, I honestly thought I knew this stuff, but if I thought I knew it and I did this bad, I'm not sure I can catch up. He said, probably need to drop. So drop that class. That was my first pivot, was going to that counselor's office and like, I need to drop genetics and pick up fitness walking and art, I think right now, just to, get this GPA up. But I got so many little funny stories like that when I thought something was going to go one way and I got it back, it was a required pivot.
Yeah.
Like, so many stories. Like I had to write them down. And my wife's like, I can't believe you're surprised. And yeah, I was really surprised at that. So anyway, yeah, I got some good ones that'll be out on that.
He said that guy needs to drop out of class. Well, I did. He did. That's good stuff. Well, Tanny, we look forward to the book, and whenever we get the opportunity and that's out, we'll definitely be sharing that. Hey, any last things? One last question I have for you is, you've done a lot in the entrepreneur lane. What if there's a young entrepreneur out there that maybe they've got the desire to do their own business, but they're still on the fence? What kind of word of encouragement might you have for them?
So I'm going to tie this to the pivot. If you think about entrepreneurship, whether you're leaving a corporate position, going into entrepreneurship, or just starting from scratch, you have to be grounded. If you think about a pivot in basketball, one foot is literally anchored, right? It's grounded. It doesn't come up. It's foundational. It's grounded. It's anchored to the floor. And so your anchors need to be your daily routine, your processes, the daily rituals, like in the morning, scripture, meditation, journaling, self-reflection, self-development. We have to get better to add value. So these are all parts of that foundation. So your morning routine, scripture, meditation, journaling, your exercise, got to stay healthy. Gratitude is a big one, like intentional gratitude in the morning. Those are foundational cornerstones that will keep you on the right path. If you hang on and you anchor yourself to that pivot point, no matter which direction you go, you can always come back to, some people say, your faith, come back to your faith. That's fine. Anchor yourself in something that's not going anywhere. Your exercise routine and all that good stuff. So, that's kind of my point, is find your anchor and make it heavy, make it heavier, anchor it down like an anchor in a manufactured house, screw it in the ground, anchor it down and pivot from that point.
Yeah. I like the fact that everything you said, most of the time we think there's a doing. I need to go do, I need to go do. Everything you mentioned is more of a being. It's a beingness. And, if anybody does anything with housing or anything like that, they know the bigger the foundation, the firmer the foundation, the higher you can go. And I love the fact that you started with that, because I think that is the starting point. It's you. It's you and your daily habits. If you're going to add value to people, you need to make yourself more valuable. And I love that. So Tanny, if anybody's listening and they want to reach out to you, if they want to follow you, you do a lot of great things on social media. You got a lot of great posts that are funny and engaging. Where's the best place that they can connect with you at?
Man, I love Messenger and Instagram, direct messaging. But so Instagram is Tanny, TANNY _realtor, REALTOR, Tanny _realtor. And then Tanny Crawford Parks Realty is my Facebook page. I'm also LinkedIn. I've got LinkedIn. And then my email, if anybody likes email, Tanny@parksathome.com And I mean, I love just conversations. And so if anybody wants to call and chat about a situation they're going through or whatever, I'll be glad to share a little experience and things that worked for me and things that didn't. So
Awesome.
it's good stuff. Yeah.
Well, Tanny, it's been really good. I know you've added a ton of value, and all those links I'm going to try to have in the show notes and those kind of things. Make sure to connect with Tanny. He is a great resource, a great mentor, and got a ton of wisdom and he's got a heart, right? He's got a heart to add value. We'll be looking for your book coming out soon in the next little bit, Tanny. And I appreciate you guys. Hey, if you're listening, we want to say thank you for listening. Make sure you subscribe so you can know and be up to date on any new episodes that come out. And we